We open the movie with the baby's eyes staring directly at us. This will be our protagonist, Matilda. We are then introduced to her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Wormwood. After leaving Matilda in the trunk, we are then introduced to her brother. The parents pay no mind for her safety or even the brother's. The narrator then informs the viewer that they might live in a nice neighborhood and are around nice people, but the Wormwoods are known to be very mean people. Her parents might not be paying attention to her, but the viewer discovers that she is a very intelligent baby from the start. A few years go by. Matilda, using her superior intellect, has discovered how to take care of herself with the family she was given. After Matilda reads all the literature in the house, she requests a book from her father, but her father, being pretty dumb, tells her to watch the TV instead. After her father disregarded her request, knowing that she was different from her family, she understood now that she had to fend for herself and get what she needed on her own. After her folks leave, she heads to the child's library that she found in the telephone book to begin her studies. Over time, she reads all the children's book at the library over countless days of going back and forth between her home and the library. The kind librarian, taking notice of her love of reading, has informed her that she was able to apply for library books so she could take books home and wouldn't have to be constantly coming back and forth to the library every day. One day her father discovers her countless books and wonders where she got all these books from, knowing that she couldn't have gone to the library by herself since she's only 4. Alas, she tells him that she is actually 6.5, saying that she wants to go to school already. One afternoon, when the father returns home from work, giddy with excitement, he begins to explain to his son how many cars he had sold, and asks his son for the sum total. Matilda answers in a flash, showing that she does indeed know math. The father, not believing that she was able to calculate that in her head, begins to pester her that she's been cheating. When she tells him that she was unable to cheat, he gets angry because she was talking back to him, being a smart aleck. He then gives her a very important lesson that she takes to heart.
Harry Wormwood had unintentionally given his daughter the first practical advice she could use. He meant to say, when a child is bad. Instead, he said, when a person is bad, and thereby introduced a revolutionary idea that children could punish their parents.
Having interpreted the lesson from her father this way, she decides to take matters into her own hand and teach her father a lesson. She then changes out his hair oil with bleach, which turns his hair completely white, shocking him in the process when he finds out. We are then introduced to 2 new characters, 2 FBI agents that are stalking the father since they have information that he is selling illegal parts. Taking his kids to see his family business, Matilda finds out that her father is a crook, selling cars for unfair prices when they're pretty much just lemons. Thinking that her father needs to be punished again, she puts super glue in her father's hat. When they go to the restaurant, he tries to take off his hat since they are in a fancy establishment. Alas, not knowing that there was super glue in his hat was stuck on his head. Trying to take it off, they cause a commotion. Matilda, having great luck, gets to eat a dessert while her brother is pretty much just plastered with cake. Her father, getting back home, is understandably angry and upset, wanting respect. He then takes it out on Matilda, who is reading a book, not doing what the family does. He then asks Matilda if she is a part of this family. He rips up her book in a blind rage. He then forces her to watch the TV. Her, being as angry as she's ever been, manifests a power that she never knew she had. Using her mind, she then blows the TV up. Surprised, but not as surprised as her family was. Unable to explain what had happened, they were just flabbergasted. One fateful day, the father meets the principal of the school, who is very uptight and very not liking of children. The father likes this and says that he has a brat that he wants to be taken care of. He then agrees to send her to the school, knowing that it'll put her in her place. Excited for her first day, she gets ready very fast and very happy, looking forward to it. When she arrives, she is shocked to see such a gloomy school, but alas, her happiness is not shredded. She enters the school still with optimism. We're then introduced to the principal, who has a very stoic stature, very big, bold, mean. Matilda finds her new friends, Lavender and Tall Girl. The principal singles out a girl who was not following the dress code for her pigtails. Angry with her since she was talking back, she decides to hammer throw her straight over the fence. We are then introduced to the teacher there, Miss Honey, a very kind and sweet teacher, unlike the principal, although we later find out that she has her own dark past. While practicing math as a review for Matilda's first day, Matilda answers a very complex math question that she threw out as a whim. Once Miss Honey double checks her math, she is astonished to find out that she got it correct. She asks how she knew the answer was. Matilda tells her that she reads a lot of books. Honey, happy with his answer, continues their lesson. Later that night, on her way to deliver a book to Matilda, she is introduced to the Wormwoods, not getting a good impression of them from the start, being annoyed about her appearance. The next few days are fine. The principal does come back to school very angry about the car that her father has sold her, claiming that it was a lemon. Taking it out on her since she is the first person that she saw, she puts her in the chokey, a very disgusting hole in the wall. Miss Honey finds out what has happened to Matilda after the principal comes into the room and is going to be teaching the class. Lavender tells Miss Honey after sneaking a newt into the principal's water. Miss Honey then rescues Matilda and brings her back to class. The newt is then poured into the glass of water. After some time, Matilda uses her powers to protect the student by throwing the newt onto the clothes of the principal. The principal, in a fuss, hurts herself. On the walk home, Miss Honey tells Matilda about her backstory with the principal. It's a very sad tale of her being her aunt and stealing all the money that her family had. She then shows her the house that she grew up in and tells her about her lost treasures. On their way back, Matilda, seeing that Miss Trunchbull has left her home in the crappy car her father sold her, goes into the house to retrieve Miss Honey's treasures. Miss Honey reluctantly follows for Matilda's protection. Sadly for them, after exploring the house for a few minutes, Miss Trunchbull returns. They run to hide, but are sadly heard. They begin a chase scene throughout the house, and they barely escape with their lives. Once Matilda returns home, her parents are in an argument, and she is getting angry. She tries to use her powers to close the door. Alas, she can't manifest them. She then asks her father to yell at her, so she could try to use anger to fuel her powers.
Yell at me again!
Yell at you! I'll come in there and pound your miserable hide! What do I have to do to gain respect around here? I'm gonna give you a tanning like you never heard in your life! My word is my law! You understand? Law!
After discovering a trigger for her powers, she begins to practice more and more with them, till she is well adept to using her powers. This girl is a little psychic. During her little training montage, she opens the window to see the FBI agents. And I gotta make one comment. How are they that bad at their job that they can't actually see her open it when it's right in their viewpoint? Anyway, They're investigating the father, trying to look for any incriminating footage. Luckily, she's there and uses her power to mess with them, and eventually make them leave to go chase after their car, which she took off the brakes. Later that night, after sneaking out, she goes to Miss Trunchbull's home to mess with her, to actually receive, or to get back the doll that was Miss Honey's when she was a child. After doing all this, she gets back the doll. Sadly, she leaves a ribbon there, which means that Miss Trunchbull knows now that it was a student from her school that stole the doll. The next day at school, she gives Miss Honey the doll. Miss Honey, obviously surprised to see the doll, is worried because she told her not to go back. Miss Trunchbull then gets to school and Miss Honey and Matilda rush to class. In class, Matilda finally reveals to Miss Honey her telepathic abilities. Miss Honey, obviously shocked, is surprised and doesn't know what to say. Miss Trunchbull then rushes into her room and they act like nothing has happened. Miss Trunchbull begins to berate the students, questioning them on who traveled to her house the previous night in a very demeaning manner. Matilda, taking it upon herself, decides to get payback to punish the adults as she has done before. Miss Trunchbull, obviously terrified, is then berated by multiple telepathic abilities. Which I have to add, all this stuff is going around these kids. I mean, something's obviously writing stuff on the chalkboard, flashing lights, and they're just reading out what it's saying. How are these kids not terrified? Like, what do they see at home that makes them act all normal in this type of situation? Anyway, she then tries to charge at Lavender. Thanks to Matilda, though, Lavender dodges, and she crashes through the door. Thankfully, all the students who hate her begin chucking their food at her, chasing her out of school, so she was never seen again. Which is, great. With Miss Trunchbull gone, Miss Honey returns to her house with Matilda. They're both enjoying a tea party, but sadly, Matilda's parents come to get her. They're on the run from the FBI, and they're planning to take her away. Matilda, not wanting to leave, asks Miss Honey to adopt her. Her parents are surprised. Even more surprised when she pulls out the adoption papers from her backpack, which she's had for a while. After discussing whether or not to do it, they reluctantly sign, giving away their daughter to Miss Honey, which I didn't even know was legal to do that way, but maybe that's just the 1990s. The end finally comes to the movie. We get to see Matilda and Miss Honey enjoying their new life together as now stepmother and daughter. She still uses her powers from time to time, and they live happily ever after, I think. Thank you guys, that's the end.